Greetings, Stars fans, and welcome to the Two Brothers Mic'd Up show. If you didn't know what we do, we'll have a game of NHL going on in the background if you would like to watch that, as we give our thoughts and discussions from the previous Dallas Stars game. The Dallas Stars take on the Chicago Blackhawks, yes, the Chicago Blackhawks, in Game 69. As each episode starts, we give our predictions from the last video, so always stick around to the very end. We give scores for how we think each team is going to come out if they come on top. Quinn, you liked a score of 3-2 for the Dallas Stars and a score of 6-2 for the Chicago Blackhawks. I liked a score of 5-4 for the Dallas Stars and a score of 6-3 for the Chicago Blackhawks. Ultimately, the Dallas Stars come out on top, 5-2. So I got half of my prediction right. Which, like again, it is hard to predict just how the Dallas Stars are going to get their goals and ultimately to get the overall scores, because they just are all over the place. Starting off with this episode, we will go to the big lineup changes happening throughout the Dallas Stars. Key injuries to Klingberg, Jordy Benn, Patrick Sharp, Jason Demers now out 6 weeks. Which means that Brett Ritchie, Nemeth, Alexiak, and our big boy Stephen Johns, who we've been talking about on this show that we just desperately wanted to see. You see, going in and looking at the lineups, what's your first impression when you saw the lineups?
Well, like a lot of people do most of the time, they go to the subreddit, the Dallas Stars subreddit, and they check the pregame lineup. And I was really shocked at looking at those lines. You know, they had Seguin on the third line between Roussel and Hemsky. And they had Eves up on the top line with Eakin and Benn. And it's just, like, looking at that, I'm just like, wow, this is, like, a dramatic change. And then you actually get to the pregame on TV, and you see that Seguin's now playing on the wing with Spezza and Nichushkin. And they don't have Janmark on the lineup. And I think that's where I was starting to freak out a little bit, because as most of our viewers know, that me and you, we really like Janmark, and it was like that weird feeling that he's been scratched when he's been one of the probably the more, I wouldn't say one of the best players, but like one of the better players helping us get through the skid with him and Spezza. So I mean, I think my emotions were just all over the place.
I know whenever you see the likes of Richie, Big Rig, Alexiak, Nemeth, Stephen Johns, Foxa in the lineup, the ultimate thing that stands out to me is the Stars' size. The physicality that they are now ready to impose onto the opposition. A couple of games ago, the Stars were out hit like 40-25. So, you know what? I honestly think they went back, because every coach is going to look at stats and how the team matched up with another team. The Stars got big, and they got big overnight with that just overhaul with with Jason Demers being out for 6 weeks. You know, the implementation of Johns in the lineup. Super excited. It's just like when Richie came up into the lineup, I was excited to see how Richie would acclimate into this. But you know what? Stephen Johns didn't look out of place either.
He looked like he'd been playing in the NHL the whole time.
Yeah. Let's go down the scores, and we'll talk a little bit more about the lineup and everything like that. First period, Jason Spezza gets his 26th on the power play. Thing that you like about Spezza, he just shoots. Doesn't really think, he just shoots. And I'd say the majority of the time will be on net. And you know what? Everybody needs to take notice of Jason Spezza and how he plays. Yeah. He shoots it on net. And you know what? Like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And Spezza, I think, really takes that to heart and has continued to be the best Dallas Star.
Yeah, I think he might have like went back and watched some of the game video and like really focused on him, especially earlier in the bad slump that we had, and just watching his play, how he's trying to make forced passes and passes all over the place. You don't really see that much more, or is that anymore from him? I've already said that, but it looks like he's more composed to take the leadership role right now, to just shoot the puck, get the goals, and get the assists, help the team out in any way you can.
Yeah. And then going into the second period, we have an Antoine Roussel goal, the Rooster. And then we have a Tyler Seguin goal, which you said between the two of Seguin and Benn. I liked Benn was going to get off the schneid first because it just looked like he was really trying really, really hard to get it. Ultimately, I think that's what kept him back a little bit. Seguin was more, if it'll happen, it'll happen. Seguin was kind of more of a go with the flow guy instead of really forcing it. It was nice to see Seguin get his. But then 5 minutes later, Jamie Benn gets off his schneid. Both of them get the monkey off their back, but key thing, none of them signaled that the monkey was now off their back, except that Tyler Seguin is now a clean-shaven pup. Don't like that he doesn't have a beard, but you know what? That's a hockey player. Once you start going through a slump, you do anything to really kind of get yourself out of it. And then 3 minutes after, about 3 minutes after Jamie Benn's goal, we have Teravainen scoring, making it 4-1 at the end of the second. And then we have an Alish Hemsky empty net goal for his 11th. And then we have a Fleischmann goal with about a minute left in the game. So, first period. How'd you like the pace and how they kept up with the Chicago Blackhawks in the first period?
I love watching Dallas Stars and Chicago Blackhawks play. Like, even if it's like the beginning of the season, it always seems like a playoff series to me. Both teams know that each other are good. Both teams know that they have skilled players on each side, especially with Taves and Kane, Jamie and Tyler. It's just, like, these games are so much fun to watch, and you can see that the players actually like playing these games because there's absolutely no bad in either one of their games. It's just fast-paced, shooting the puck, and ultimately what I really liked seeing was we scored 3 goals in the first period. Or
second.
In the what?
We had 3 goals in the second.
Oh, okay. And then we had this Jason Spezza goal in the power play in the first period. It's just something that's good to see from the Dallas Stars.
Now, did you get worried at all whenever the Stars, for the 39th game, take the first penalty? But then, not just the first penalty, they go down 2 men and leave a 5-on-3 for the Dallas Stars. Were you worried at any point?
I mean, you get worried, but at the same time, you start going back to other games and you remember that our penalty kill has been pretty good as of lately in the past couple of games. So I was worried, but I felt that they could get through it.
Yeah. The penalty kill has been actually quite stellar for the Dallas Stars. Going down, giving the Chicago Blackhawks in the first period that 5-on-3, I think ultimately them killing it off ultimately helped the Dallas Stars with their pace, with their confidence in the game, because just a little bit after the Johnny Oduya delay a game penalty, we have a Andrew Shaw tripping penalty, and that's when the Dallas Stars jump on the Chicago Blackhawks with Jason Spezza's goal on the power play. Getting that huge key kill, having Kari play really good and making that really good save on, was it Panarin on the other side when Taves throws it over? Getting that real good key save right there. I think Kari's playing so good right now. You don't want to jinx him. And I expect Niemi to be in against St. Louis. I don't want to ride Kari too hard. I think let's let him have the night off. Let Niemi come in, especially since the team showed that they can play good team defense, especially against Chicago. And you're going to need good team defense against St. Louis. So let Niemi come in, settle things down, play the good team defense against them. When second period ends, were you concerned at all that Dallas was only had that one power play goal? I mean, the power play looked really good. It looked really good early in the first period. I mean, were you concerned that, them not getting goals on a lot of the chances, because the Blackhawks took 3 penalties in the first period? Did it concern you that they only had 1 out of the 3?
No. I mean, even the best power plays, if you give them 3 power plays, what are the odds that they score on all 3 of them or 2 of them? I mean, that's actually really good to score 1 out of 3. I mean, now if like it kept building up and we kept getting more and more and more power plays and we were like 1 out of 7, then I would kind of start to get worried. But ultimately, I think the Stars just looked really composed, and I mean, hell, if Chicago didn't have Crawford, I mean, that game could have easily been like 8-0 in the first 2 periods.
Yeah. Crawford again has a shaky game against Dallas. He ultimately gets yanked in for the second time out of the series. Going into the second, you have Roussel getting that goal. It's good seeing him, starting to turn it up, a minute into that period. But let's talk about Stephen Johns. I know this is like a big topic that, especially before the game and the day before the game, we get the news that he's getting called up finally. Let's talk about his game and what you thought about it overall.
I mean, the kid's a big body. He had some monster hits in the first period. He looked the most composed defenseman out there besides Russell. He looked like he is an NHL player that deserves to be in the NHL right now.
Yep.
I mean, he blew me away with his performance.
Surprisingly enough, he ties for the team lead in hits. Any guess on who he tied with on that?
Roussel?
Roussel's one of them.
I don't know the other one.
Tyler Seguin, Roussel, and Johns all had 3 hits to them. So having Johns in the lineup and him, throwing his body around, I think it's just like when Richie was in the lineup when he was first implemented in the lineup. You feed off of the energy of like these youngsters that are coming in and giving you so much. These players are giving 110%, but it's not saying that no one else was, but it's so infectious seeing these kids get into the lineup, especially with Johns coming in and throwing his body around just like Richie did in his first game. When you see Tyler Seguin stepping up and leading the team in hits, I mean, I think they start to understand that this is how you play. You can play fast and you can play skilled, but don't let these teams come in and bully you around, because the hits 20-7 in favor of the Dallas Stars. That is a complete turnaround than what we've been seeing for the past couple of weeks. But let's talk about the rest of the defense. How'd you like them playing together? What chemistry worked and what didn't work?
I mean, It'll be good once Klingberg comes back, at least for Klingberg. But, I mean, that top pair of Russell and Goligoski, I'm still not 100% set on it. I would actually like to see Johns playing with Russell and maybe have Goligoski play with Oduya. And, I mean, I think Oleksiak and Nemeth, they have chemistry. They may not be the best pair to be together, but those two have chemistry together with playing in the AHL. and playing most of their time together with the Dallas Stars. So, I mean, overall, the chemistry's there, but I think little mini twerks would help them out a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the chemistry absolutely was there. I think the lineups were fairly good. I think Oduya played really well with Johns. I think I would like Russell a bit better with Johns. And have Oduya just step up on that first line and have Russell come down to the second. I think that would maybe gel a little bit more. But ultimately, I thought the defense played very well. But it was also the forwards coming back and playing good team defense as well.
Yeah, this team just seemed like the beginning of the season again, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, you have 5 block shots from Russell. You have 3 block shots from Roussel. Jason Spezza with 1. 3 from Goligoski. 2 from Eakin. 1 from Benn. 2 from Foxa. I mean, they were all contributing and all willing to step into those lanes and not let a lot get through to Kari. Now, I honestly think Kari could have stopped just about every shot come his way. If he wasn't getting caught, just the only defensive breakdown that I saw was from the Teravainen goal. Now, you see Alexiak step up and try to play the shot, which ultimately gets passed off. I don't have a problem with that. Alexiak is big and he can get in lanes, so I don't mind him going up. The only defensive problem that I saw was from Fiddler. You had Nemeth out there trying to play the pass that ultimately gets over to Teravainen. I would have liked that pass to not make it across. But you see, if you go back and watch that play, you see Fiddler he just starts puck watching. He doesn't anticipate Teravainen over on the other side. He doesn't drop back to where Alexiak should be, and that's what the center is supposed to do. He's supposed to recognize that Alexiak is moving up. He's supposed to come back because Teravainen is Alexiak's man, but he steps up to try to block the shot. I don't mind that as long as your center falls back and takes care of that defensive position. Because there was no one in the slot. Fiddler was in the slot protecting nothing. Doesn't pick up Teravainen on the other side. Other than that, I think a solid defensive game from everybody. I mean, even with the shorthanded chance from Benn and Eakin, I mean, they played it aggressive enough to where they didn't get caught out of position. Eakin continues to be on his slump. I think his slump is now. I mean, it's the biggest slump that you can tell, especially with that shot that he gives. He doesn't even hit Crawford. He shoots it wide. I mean, it's like a 5-foot goal. I don't know how you have all the time in the world, and he just ultimately just misses. I'd much rather you hit the goalie and maybe go for a rebound than just missing ultimately. But I mean, you had a lot of pace, a lot of skill, a lot of their entries were good. Their getting out of the zone didn't seem like a chore for them. Like they weren't doing the wimpy little passes out. They were playing with purpose. The Chicago Blackhawks come into town, and then all those fans come into town, and then you can hear the "Let's Go Hawks" chant over the Dallas Stars chant. I mean, it's annoying, but it seems like the Stars really elevate their game whenever the big boys are in town, but they also play down to teams that are not even in the playoffs right now. So the Stars have to find that consistent game to play against no matter what team it is.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest complaint about this game is why don't they play like this against everybody?
Exactly.
I hate that they get that mentality that, oh, we're first or we're second. Oh, we're playing who? Edmonton. Oh, they're not even relevant. Let's just go out there and beat them. And then Edmonton comes out and scores like 4 or 5 goals against them. They're like, well, it's really embarrassing how we thought we could beat them. It's like, these are still professional teams. They can beat you any day of the week. But you got to bring that game. That's my only complaint about this one.
I agree. Kari having a great game needs to keep this going. You saw it with the Seguin goal. It's like they just come in with such speed, and it just looked effortless. Spezza holds on to the puck, but that's usually Spezza's game. Seguin goes straight for the net, shoots 5-hole, it goes in. The Jamie Benn goal, he goes to the net, good things happen. That's whenever things are starting to turn around, is that, they're getting the puck luck, and the skill goes along with their pace. Because a lot of the time with that pace, the skill isn't really matching, and they get caught in their own zone, or they can't get out of their own zone, or they have trouble even just making the simplest passes. But in this game, like you said, it's a little frustrating, but then again, seeing them play the hockey that we know they can play is good to see, that going down the stretch with like 13 games left, that's how you play. Any negatives or anything like that? Actually, before we go into that, last episode we talked about how people wanted Hemsky out of the lineup. Again, another strong game from Hemsky. He gets that empty netted goal, but then has that sick chance in the first period with that massive dangle on Keith. Hemsky is starting to elevate his game up. I liked that. Hemsky deserves to stay in this lineup, and I think right now he's starting to prove that he deserves it. Going into the third period, the Hawks pull their goalie with 8 minutes left. Now, was it concerning to you, 8 minutes left in the game, the Stars weren't able to score until Hemsky gets his goal at the fifth, with 5 minutes left in the game. So for 3 minutes, the Stars couldn't. They were hemmed into their own zone against the pressure of the Hawks. Was that any kind of concerning to you? Or?
No, I think that's just expected. They load up that line. They got Keith, Seabrook, Hossa, Taves, Panarin, and then Kane. You got those 6 guys out there. Those are 6. One of them's a rookie, but he's the top rookie in the league right now. So he is an elite player right now. That's 6 elite players out there that you don't take lightly. I think it's a fight, and those guys, when they start passing the puck, you'll get run around, you'll get out of position at times. So I think it's kind of expected. But any breakdown, you gotta take advantage.
Yeah, I think pulling their goalie with 8 minutes left, you had to think that wherever Patrick Waugh was, he just had a massive hard-on. Because without Patrick Waugh pulling stuff like that, you don't see that in the NHL anymore, or now, because Patrick Waugh, was one of the first to do it, and so this is the first time that I've seen it with 8 minutes left in a game, and I can't really remember the last time I saw someone pull their goalie with that much time left against the Dallas Stars. I don't think we've seen it before.
But yeah, that was another thing that me and Dad were talking about was, is that really truly considered an empty net goal if the goalie is still on the ice?
Well,
because he's skating to the bench, he gets to the bench, but then he starts skating back towards the net. But ultimately, it's already going in. So, is that truly considered an empty net goal?
Well, if there's no one standing in it, I consider it empty.
Right.
But let's talk about Fleischmann's goal, which the prettiest goal of the game. Like that dangle to get back to his forehand to go top cheese on Kari was a thing of beauty. But goaltender interference goes to coach's challenge and gets upheld as a good goal. Agree with it?
Well, I mean, there's arguments to agree and there's arguments to disagree. I kind of agree with it, like 60% agree, 40% disagree. Mainly because when who was it? That was it.
Weiss.
Weiss. I mean, when he goes, yeah, he gets in the crease, yeah, he hits Kari, but I don't think there's anything that really impeded Kari from getting over there. I mean, I feel if Kari tried hard enough, he probably could have gotten over to it. But I think Kari ultimately went with he ran into me, so why try? And then you can definitely see that on his face whenever they pan to him on the TV, and he's just like, really? So, but then again, he also ran into the goalie, and his stick was there in between the legs. So I mean, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about it though, is that the coach's challenge at the beginning of the season seemed like such a right thing to do, and it seemed so, concise with what we were getting. Like, here's the rule, and here's how to interpret it. But since the season has been going on, and with these officials, it just looks like it's just getting worse and worse. It's now a crapshoot to understand if something's going to get called back or not. So it's kind of like, well, hell, that seemed like a good goal, but hell, let me just throw out a coach's challenge to see if it gets overturned, and then hell, sometimes it gets overturned when you were kind of just taking a shot in the dark. But
getting a timeout for your guys.
Yeah, when Lindy Ruff throws out this coach's challenge, I mean, it seems like it's goaltender interference. To me, it ultimately looked like, hey, he runs into the crease, he hits Kari, and like 8 seconds, or like not even like 8 seconds, like 5 seconds later, they get a goal. And, Weiss's stick is still under Kari. I mean, he's pointing to the stick. It's like, look, guy's in my crease. He's all up on me. This is where it starts getting cloudy. And I ultimately still like the coach's challenge, but let's get a little more clarity on what is goaltender interference. A lot of these calls, you're just like, well, I guess call the coach's challenge and we'll see what happens. But I think it needs to be more exact to the point. Like, it can't really be opened to interpretation. Like, if he touches the goalie, it's either goaltender interference or not. I don't like that it's so up to interpretation. I think it needs to be a little more clear, because I honestly thought it was goaltender interference and it should not have been a goal. Does it affect the outcome of the game? No. But still, it's still a kick in the dick to know that looks like goaltender interference, but then you're going to say that it's not. Well, then why don't you tell us what goaltender interference is? I think that's what it is. And I didn't like the call, not just because it's the Chicago Blackhawks scoring on us, but I just think for hockey in general, it feels like it was a bad call. Let's go into the ratings of this game. What did you give this as the game went along?
I gave it an A. It feels good to actually give them an A because, they played pace. They played about 58 minutes of hockey. I think that's probably the best that they've had since the All-Star break. Like, they looked really good. They had scoring. They had Droughts being put out. They had Johns coming in playing massive numbers and just playing big. And Kari. I think Kari is ultimately one of the stars of this game. Like, without him, I think this game could have gone the other way. So, that's why I give him an A.
Yeah, no, I give him an A as well. And hell, the last time we played against the Hawks, we also had an A effort that I feel It just seems like the Stars are playing so good against the Hawks. You know, they had that one stinker here at home, but the last game that they played against, Patrick Eaves got that hat trick. You know, the good team defense, good goaltending. Good to see the rookies come in and step up. Steven Johns had a really good game. He had like 17 minutes in this game, so it was nice to see that he wasn't a liability out there. Alexiak and Nemeth continue to be a little bit better after each game. Nemeth, you know, you take him as you go, but a lot of people think, you know, he's on the better side than Alexiak. I want Alexiak to be a little bit better, but I think he just needs a little bit more development. But all around, good A effort. Stars play against the St. Louis Blues. What kind of predictions do you have for that one?
Well, it's going to be nice to actually go into the Blues game knowing that you're going to have physicality on your side. So I think it should have about the same pace as the Chicago and Stars game, because they're all fighting for first place. Blues win this one, they go into first place. Chicago sits in third, and Dallas goes back to second. I mean, it's a fight for the division title now. So I think if the Stars come out on top, I think it'll be 4-3, and I'll say 3-2 for the Blues. I think it'll be a close game.
If the Stars don't play with the lineups, and they keep it the exact same, and they give the exact effort, and they play the exact way, I think ultimately it falls back on our goaltending. If Niemi is in the game, I think Niemi is going to have to play above what he's been playing recently. St. Louis Blues are going to come in, and they're going to try to impose their will on the Dallas Stars because they think they know how to play against Dallas. Let's show them that with this lineup, this big lineup that the Stars have, that they're not going to be pushed around. I swear to God, if they let Ryan Reeves just run around and do whatever he wants, if no one steps up to him, no one gets into his face, you know, I'm going to be really angry with this team. If I don't see someone try to go after the Blues, it'll be a bad game. With that, I like a score of 4-2 for the Dallas Stars, and I like a score of 5-3 for the St. Louis Blues. That's the discussion. Be sure to subscribe, share the video if you'd like, hit that like button, leave any kind of feedback down below. Without that, doesn't help the show grow. And, as always, tune in next time.